Reporter Laura Lee Mason.
Success yesterday for 12 British families after a long court battle. Their relatives were given British-made human growth hormone after July 1977, at a time the court ruled when the health department should have known the risks of them contracting CJD. Julia Mackenzie from New Plymouth is heartened by the British decision. Her 32-year-old daughter Debbie died of CJD 4 years ago.
I was never told that there was any risk whatsoever.
She was one of around 162 New Zealanders given American-made human growth hormone as a child. 3, including Debbie, have since died. 2 more are understood to have contracted CJD.
You've got to get up and fight and ask questions. Why?
And she has been fighting, seeking damages in an American court against the manufacturers. So far, she's had no joy. And as the hormone was given to Debbie before ACC laws were introduced in 1974, Julia and her family have been ineligible to claim compensation here. But the Health Ministry told One Network News today the ACC eligibility rules are about to change for CJD victims. Families like the Mackenzies, whose relatives were given the hormone treatment prior to 1974, can now be considered for compensation, provided they develop symptoms after that date. Lawyer Michael Ockesy says the amount being paid out by ACC isn't enough.
Those who have received ACC, I am aware, do not feel they've had sufficient services and support delivered to them to allow them to take care of the affected person in a way they would wish.
The Health Ministry says it's aware of such criticisms and is looking into the matter. Laura Lee Mason, One Network News.
2 powerboat racers had a lucky escape today after their high-speed machine nearly flipped near Auckland. Both escaped serious injury, but Lee Taylor reports it's just the latest in a spate of recent accidents.
Hotspot was flying through the water at 100 kilometres an hour when she tripped on a wave. The impact almost flung one of her crew overboard. Driver Rob Dowe came off worst.
So he's quite bruised and a bit sore, and so we treated him for possible neck injuries.
The crew was competing in the last race of the Trans-Tasman Powerboat Series. Other drivers say conditions were rough.
Very tricky conditions, especially the first 2 laps, because we had rain, real misty rain. You couldn't see where you're going.
Powerboat racing's been plagued by accidents in recent months. Graham Horn suffered serious injuries when his boat hit the wake of a Quick Cat ferry and flipped. The Auckland Regional Council since banned racing on the congested Waitemata Harbour. And at last week's leg of the Trans-Tasman Challenge, catastrophe for the Australians. On the last lap, this boat began billowing smoke from an engine. And minutes after these pictures were taken, she sank. Racers acknowledge it's a risky game, but say these accidents are more bad luck than recklessness. Lee Taylor, One Network News.
Next, April's live again from Atlanta.
Yes, and I'll have more Olympic action, including a world record and a major shock in the pool. Plus, the dawning of a new era for the New Zealand 3-day eventers and the Chinese shooter who lost his cool and a gold medal.
Well, tonight on Homes at 7 o'clock, 35 years on, a Beatle, a couple in love, and the long road from London to Calcutta.
Our steering and air conditioning and all those good things. It'll be a little more basic than what we've all become accustomed to in cars, but the car will get there. It's fantastic.
Indeed. Owners and VW in mint condition. Homes tonight at 7 o'clock.
The Cook Islands cash crisis has moved to Fiji, with officials appealing for help from potential donor nations and global aid organisations. The meeting in Suva is hearing reform plans from the Cook's delegation, but John Stewart reports that there's unlikely to be any immediate relief for the islands.
The meeting in Suva has been convened by the Asian Development Bank with delegates from countries as far away as China and Italy. Many are being confronted for the first time with the Cook's crisis.
Very drastic reforms are needed, reducing the size of government and providing incentives to the private sector.
They're learning, for instance, about tough public service pay cuts and job losses as the tiny economy simply runs out of money. Sir Geoffrey Henry is not mincing words. The Cook's needs about $130 million to pay its debts.
Well, we're looking to whatever the donor community can give us. The more, the better.
But any bailout will take time. The delegates have to report back to their governments and organisations. Then, as one delegate put it, Sir Geoffrey's government has to get some runs on the board by implementing free market reforms. New Zealand won't be giving any more than its $12 million already earmarked.
The assistance that New Zealand will be providing will actually be targeting the downsizing of the public service and the transition to a more transparent and accountable form of management.
A meeting is planned for about a year's time to review what self-help reforms the cooks have achieved before any money is handed out. John Stewart, One Network News.
Here at home, a Christchurch doctor says he's so frustrated with changes to the health system, he's quitting his practice after 20 years. As a parting note, Dr. Tony Devonish has published a large newspaper advertisement. He says it's an explanation to his patients and a message to those running the health system. Jane Jennings reports.
Dr. Tony Devonish took out this quarter-page advertisement to explain why he's had enough. He says he can no longer follow his own ethics and the Hippocratic Oath, and says the bureaucrats have won. One example, he says, the waste of money keeping people waiting for operations.
Couldn't sit by and watch this guy spending hundreds of dollars every month on drugs when he really needed an operation. And now he's had his operation, he's not on anything.
A patient of 14 years supports the doctor's stand.
He's a principled person, Tony, and he's been pushed into a corner.
Tony Devonish argues patients have become clients of the health service. Health Minister Jenny Shipley wouldn't appear on camera today, but said Dr. Devonish was unable to consider health a consumer issue. The doctor taking over the practice says it's a brave decision to leave.
I can understand his frustration. I'm sure that many others do also. But very few would be prepared to take the action that he has.
That's confirmed by a doctor's representative.
There are doctors who are sharing the concern at the bureaucracy that's building up. I don't know of anyone who shares it to the extent that Dr. Devonish has expressed it.
In 2 weeks, Dr. Devonish will become Mr. Devonish as he starts a career outside medicine. Jane Jennings, One Network News.
When it comes to seafood, power is often referred to as black gold, and it could soon spark a new gold strike in New Zealand. Ainsley Talbot reports that scientists are close to a breakthrough which could lead to a new multi-million-dollar marine farming industry.
For years, big money has been made from power. It's now worth around $40 a kilo, second only to crayfish in value on the export market. But there are still few marine farms attempting to grow this mysterious shellfish. That's because nobody has worked out how to get power larvae to survive to the adult stage with some consistency. Now, after 2 years, scientists at the Cawthron Institute in Nelson are coming close to identifying the chemical trigger that will convince baby power to stop swimming and start crawling.
The survival through the first 2 months is extremely variable and may range from, say, 0 to 10%. And that variability introduces a lot of inefficiencies in the farming process.
The key lies in the natural environment, in the pink algae which covers rocks around our coastline. This algae contains the mysterious chemical which attracts power to settle on the sea bottom.
Anything that we can do to improve the efficiency of power farming has the potential to really make a major industrial advance for New Zealand. Could be a huge aquaculture industry.
The Cawthron Institute is now about to start sharing information with the Japanese, who've also done extensive research into developing power farms. Ainsley Talbot, One Network News.
From farming at sea to farming trees, a North Otago nursery is cashing in on foreign interest in Douglas fir trees. Overseas demand for the trees has transformed the nursery into a high-tech seedling factory. John McDermott reports.
Growing in a giant greenhouse, thousands upon thousands of tiny trees. They're among 5 million Douglas fir seedlings Ford's nursery will produce this year. The process starts with the Swedish filling and seeding line, the only one in Australasia. Seeds go into precisely the right mix of peat and sand, 12 trays a minute.
The numbers that are involved in the actual production couldn't be done economically, manually, so we have to have an automated system.
The seedlings are moved around on a rail system, common throughout the nursery. They're pampered automatically. A sprinkler delivers water, nutrients, fungicides and insecticides. And lights trick the seedlings into growing during winter. They're all for the Malaysian forestry giant Ernst Law 1, planting them here in preference to faster-growing radiata.
Douglas fir is a very well accepted, acknowledged and understood timber on the world market, and in particular within the area of the Pacific Rim where our major timber markets are.
2 plantings a year means half the crop matures outdoors. And after 9 months, the seedlings are ready for the forest. Currently, Douglas firs make up only 5% of our total forestry. With Ford set to produce another 7 million next year, that percentage is sure to grow. John McDermott, One Network News.
Our top stories this news hour. The country's Motorsport Association wants to know whether country roads should be used for speed record attempts following the crash which nearly killed New Zealand's fastest driver. Owen Evans is still in hospital. His teammates say a roll cage was the only thing which saved his life.
And the Governor-General, Sir Michael Hardy-Boys, heads New Zealand's first revised honours system. The New Zealand Order of Merit replaces various British orders of chivalry. The new honours mark the end of an era and the severing of another tie with our colonial past. Jodie Ihaka reports on the evolution of New Zealand's own honours system.
Working for the country, honoured by the Queen, a 78-year-old tradition that started to unravel last year. Breaking ties with the British, with the Prime Minister an enthusiastic advocate for change.
I have no doubt at all that the majority of New Zealanders, when they think about it, will say, look, hey, we're New Zealanders. We are capable of organising an honours system to reflect New Zealand.
It was up to this group to suggest a new system, an honours list that was more Kiwi than Commonwealth. Heading the committee, staunch Republican Philip Burton, but he faced stiff opposition.
Why are we doing this? I think the Prime Minister's got an urge to do it. There isn't any other reason. There's certainly no public pressure.
But the quest for independent recognition saw a new system and a new set of medals, all strictly Kiwi, but with the royal stamp of approval. The new system has 5 levels of achievement. Those appointed to the top 2 will still be considered knights and dames and can use the title. The new badge for merit features the New Zealand coat of arms and the words tohu hiranga, to achieve excellence, and the breast staff for merit is designed around the silver fern. New Zealand's not the only Commonwealth country to dump the royal honours. Canada stopped in 1919 and Australia stopped 6 years ago. Even though New Zealand's going its own way, it's not a total break with tradition. The awards for hard-working New Zealanders will still be tied to the Queen's birthday and the New Year's honours list. Jodie Ihaka, One Network News.
Later on the news hour, the risks of an earthquake hitting the capital.
First, April has Frank Nobolo's blistering finish in Germany.
Yes, his tournament victory is perfect preparation for the US Open. And running free, Michael Jones joins the All Blacks test build-up, but Damon Hill comes unstuck again in a treacherous Spanish Grand Prix.